If you run an e-commerce brand or the one who has to report on it, you probably don't have a data problem. You have a trust problem. You have GA4 reports, then Shopify dashboards, and additional numbers coming out of both Meta and Google Ads. But somehow none of them agree. So somebody on the team rebuilds the real report by hand in a spreadsheet every week. And you still walk into a meeting not sure the numbers are right. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through a dashboard that a stakeholder can open and make a decision from. The kind you can hand off to a CMO or a channel lead, and they understand the information in about 10 seconds and without having to call you and ask what they're looking at. And the best part is, with this demo, you can make it for your own store. However, I want to be straight with you about one thing, and that's because it's the backbone of this entire video. A dashboard is only ever as honest as the data layer underneath. A clean chart presenting broken tracking just hides a problem behind a nice looking number. So we're going to start one level lower than most people ever look and continue to review a dashboard that gets your team to stop asking you for numbers and start making decisions on their own. So we're going to start at a really base level, and it's not the most glamorous part that people want to start at when building their dashboards, but without understanding the underlying information, it's really hard to make sure that the metrics you're pulling in are the ones that are going to ultimately populate the chart and be the answers to your stakeholders. So we're going to be looking at a Shopify store here. And just as a baseline, you'll see that I'm looking at the pixel helper. The pixel helper is just one place that you can look at how the information is architected. This could be a custom pixel that you're reporting on the back end. That doesn't take into account sales channels like Google or Meta that have their own reporting standards in the background. And then if you want to go a little bit more direct into the information, you can actually pull up the data layer on the page in most cases, and that is going to be showing you information that is different as well. Just looking at this information here, let's just go into the item level event to demonstrate how this data could be different. So I'm going to go into page view here, or my product view, and I'm going to show the data on the pixel helper. And you'll notice the ID for the product is the UPC that I set up in this instance. But if I go over here and I look at the view from the sales channel that's integrated into Shopify, and I go to my items array that goes into Google Analytics, you'll see that the item ID here is the Shopify ID, which is technically present in some instances in the pixel helper, and you can pull this information, but that's just one example of how the data is not matching together. And it'd be your job to understand that in the background first, and that is going to be the baseline to build your reports. I always want to make sure I have a really good understanding of the source system reporting, so that would be Shopify, which is really good because that's how the money is moving in and out of your accounts, right? That's the cash money. But if I want to understand the performance of my channels and how to stretch my marketing dollars, I'll probably want to be in something like Google Analytics 4. They have a model attribution system, data-driven attribution, DDA, and that's going to really inform how that should be contributed to those sales channels. So is my email the one contributing more sales? Is it a referral that's bringing them in first from a place like Rakuten? Or is it really something that is a direct sale when someone types in my URL and comes to my site? The model is going to decide, does that source that's bringing you to the site get 100% credit, it get partial credit? And that's going to help you inform the marketing dollars and how well they're performing. So again, just understanding the data and where you should be pulling that data in the background is going to be helpful in how you set up your dashboards first. So now that we understand where the information is coming from and how it's built, we're going to start with a quick dashboard that answers most of the questions that a stakeholder is going to look at on a daily basis, or one of your channel leads or something like that. Just generally, how is my e-commerce website doing? We're going to start with, again, the least glamorous part of this. So we'll create in datastudios.google.com, and we're going to create a report. We're going to first select our data source. So again, this is where understanding that basic information to start with is really going to set you up for success. And I know that what I want to start with is the actual sales information from Shopify. And for us, we're building that as part of an integration with funnel.io. So select that data source. And then I also know that I'm going to want to do some channel reporting data later. So I'm going to go into resources at the top. I'm going to add in a resource, and I'm going to do that from Google Ads. I preset these up for the demo, but just letting you know where the data sources are. The next thing you need to do is really just understand who the audience is for this report. Is it going to be a stakeholder? Is it going to be for you? Are they going to need to do a grab and go on a mobile device? That kind of information is going to decide whether you do a responsive layout so that it adapts with the type of screen, or if you're going to basically copy and paste this or screenshot it into a slideshow, then you're going to want to choose a different layout. For me, I always, or more often than not, end up having these put into slideshow slideshow format or users with wider screens. So I'm going to do a freeform layout. Make sure I have the right screen aspect ratio. I'm going to go into the theme and layout, go to the layout section, and I'm going to scroll down to the canvas size and make this a 16:9 landscape. And that's going to be often the slideshow format that you're looking for. After that's done, I'm going to just hide out some of that information, and I'm going to start editing the first chart on the page. If you're starting from scratch, it's going to give you something to start with. Click on this information and just swap out what that's going to be. So I'm going to down click on the chart types, and I'm going to click on a scorecard. The first thing I'm going to want to add in here is just my sales. So I want to know from this card what my gross sales are. So we'll just click on the metric setting and we'll gross purchase revenue. Perfect. The next thing I'm going to do just to get this started off, I'm going to add a control in here for a date range. The date range is just going to give me some more information to start when I reload the page every time. And I'm going to just choose the last year. Now that I have a date range set, I can also go back to this original card and I can scroll down to the setup settings for comparison date range and click the checkbox, go with comparison range and change it from none to previous period. And in this case, it would be the previous year. So now we'll see a little comparison here. It's showing the percent of change, but you can also change it to be the actual number of change. And right now it's set to be adaptive, so it'll just update for you. I can also do this in a different way. I can go up to the top and I can add a chart, and then I can choose a scorecard from there. And in this one, I think I want to set my returns. Remember the data sources. I want this to be a funnel. So in here, I want to be gross sales. Now with the returns, again, I'm going to turn on the comparison date range, and I'm going to set this to previous period. Now I want to take one of these pre-formatted ones, and I'm going to then add in, instead of gross sales, I want to know what my margin is. And then last but not least, in these base ones, I want to add in a sale quantity. So I want to know the actual number of items that I'm selling. And you'll have all the base controls that you normally have in these type of tools. So I'm just going to select all of these. I'm going to align them to the top, and then to make it look all nice, I'm going to distribute them so they're even. Ta-da. So there we have some basic stats. And then over here, it's nice having the gross sales, but this is the total of the year. So I think I want to see this to be the entire year. So I'm going to change my chart type to a time series, and it's going to start showing me the sales by day over time. And then last but not least, I can copy and paste this again. I want to know what the distribution is of the type of product categories I'm selling. What's my best selling product category? I think that's going to be better in a chart. So we're going to change that. And then in gross sales, instead of gross sales, what I'm going to do is make sure that I am changing that to gross sales, but instead of by date, I want this to be my product category. And it seems like I have a bunch of categories in here, so it's not really useful to have too many of them. So I want to just limit this to my top 5, and then anything else will just be in the other. And you can kind of see how that's already making this chart a little bit easier to understand. You also notice that some of these don't have any information explaining what they are, so it's always best to kind of explain what they're doing. The one styling I would add to this part before we get into demoing a real dashboard template is I'd turn on the title here, and you can either keep what is here, like in this case, or in this title, I want to say product category by gross sales. And there you have it. These are the most important things that executive normally wants to look at, or your channel lead. It's not going to be cluttered by a ton of information like you get in a Shopify dashboard. Now let's switch over to our real template that we set up for our demo store. This is information that we set up for explaining how all of these charts work and making it look at the level of finalized dashboard that we give to our clients. So this is a made up sports and venturing brand. And again, we want to start with the most important things that you will be able to look at to understand performance. And we want to take out all the clutter of all the things that could be confusing or may ask additional questions that aren't as important in the day-to-day operations, but may be important to have later on. Here again, you'll see a similar report that we set up, but you'll see a couple improvements here. So this is definitely branded for the individual brand, Alder. But additionally in here, we made it look a little little bit more presentable, and then added things like the percent of returns to gross sales. I can understand that our return revenue is about 10% of our gross sales. We kind of adjusted some of these numbers to not have decimal points, and two, when we need that precision to be high enough. So sales quantity, we sell ones and twos. We don't sell half shoes. We don't sell half pants. This is just a full quantity number. We could also change this to be a comparison on the actual number of change from sales between this time period and last. Additionally, the charts have been updated to be a little bit more readable and branded and have the numbers that are on here. This is normally what it's going to be an easy read to see how the sales are for the period that you're looking at. If this is already more useful than the dashboards you're running now, the next part is where it gets real, because the next panels are the ones that usually expose the most important decision-making data, how you're generating sales, or where there is a revenue leak. Our next section is the channel reporting. So in here, we took the channel reporting and we're showing you two different things. We're showing you where the revenue is coming from the most important channels for this brand. We're showing you channel traffic paid generally across all of the paid channels. And then we're showing you a comparison source that is always a point of argument between potential vendor who is helping run ads or the sales that are actually reported in Google Analytics. We'll start with the top here. We have our paid revenue. This is everything that we actually paid to advertise and bring to the site. We have our organic revenue. So every way that a user could come to the site by clicking on a link that isn't direct. So this could be Google search. In some cases, this could be AI generated. This could be Bing search. It's just the places that people came to without having you type in the URL directly. Email and SMS revenue. This is bucketed together for this client because they have one platform that is SMS and email, and they send the right messaging depending on what that person prefers, but it's all the same spend and attribution. This can be split out if we needed to, but they want to see it all in one place. And then finally, the direct revenue. This is your free revenue. You didn't advertise for this. This is the contribution that is coming from people that come to your site directly. Then when we go into the channels, we have a combination of paid channels, and then we have paid channels that actually have a cost associated with them. So Bing does have a paid channel here, but this is just kind of, we stopped ads on a Wednesday and we still were getting contributions for a couple days later. So there's no cost associated with it, but we are getting sales potentially. But there's also ones where we are purchasing right now. We're spending ads on Facebook, we're spending ads on Google, and we're showing the return on ad spend based on the Google attribution from the DDA model. So here you'll see Facebook is at 108% ROAS and Google is at 17%. And this is keeping into account that maybe direct traffic contributed to some of this, maybe it didn't. Now, the most important thing that is always a topic of contention here is you'll see the Facebook source reported data is saying that their ROAS is 234%. So Facebook self-reported information versus its contribution to all of the marketing channels together is about half when you look at it at Google Analytics. And this is pretty common to see a pretty big change between those two. This is where you get into the realm of trying to understand how the channel is performing week over week and how you're optimizing with a new campaign or where you're spending, or maybe you're doing some prospecting or brand awareness information campaigns. And those may not have a direct sale contribution to them. So you're trying to just understand how that is week over week. Whereas when you finally get into the site, there's multiple ways that people shop. The shopping channel's very convoluted now. People come back multiple times. If you're a high intent brand that maybe you're purchasing a wedding engagement ring and you need to choose a stone setting and you want to shop around, and then you didn't know your ring size at the time. So maybe you don't get the contribution from that until 5 days later when someone comes to the website again after they knew about it. You kind of want to know how that's all playing out, and it may not be directly related to a reminder email or social response. So this is basically letting you know both of those things, and you could expand this out to another marketing channel if you wanted Google Ads in here to see how Google Ads is reporting versus Facebook, or SMS or email, same thing. They're all going to report differently in their source systems than they are in Google Analytics with the DDA model. A next report that we like to set up, heavily dependent on the data you set up to begin with in data layer, is the product reporting. You need to make sure that you're understanding your product IDs, your understanding if something is full price and sale, if there's discounts involved, if you are wanting to show a variation of size and color, or whatever your sales memory size, whatever it is, right? right? In the product setup, what we like to do is add in product images as well. So again, you can really screenshot this and take it and put it into a report for a slideshow. You can customize this to be top 10s. You could make it to have most discoverability. So we can implement a product finding method, and that would help understand where someone first saw the product versus where they finally purchased it from. We could do sales by categories, subcategories, all that type of thing. What we're going to put in here is specific item related data. So similar to the first page where we have items purchased and returns, we're going to do the same thing for items. And then we're going to put that into the top 10 so you can kind of see how that is reflecting as well. So we have our items purchased over here, our items returned, our return rate, and our units per transaction. Then on the left, you're going to see a highlight of our top seller. We created a link in here. So if you want to click on this link, you can actually go to the website and see the information on that product. And then on the right side here, we have our top 10 products with their category, their subcategory, quantity that's been sold, the delta of that quantity from the previous time period, and the same for returns and net sales. And this is a really great snapshot that lets you understand the products you've been selling during this time period. But again, it doesn't have all that clutter or the Shopify styling. It's branded, it's instantly able to be shared with an executive and put into whatever slideshow you need, or find the image of the product that you need to say what is the best seller and show where that is on the site so you can see what the experience of that product that could be making it the top seller. It's a really one-stop shop for both your merchants and your executives to understand your top performing products. So the way that you build this product panel is in your data layer. You need to make sure that you have a image URL. And that image URL, when you add it to the site, we created a product demo URL. It'll originally come in as the actual main URL itself. This could be good for a button like we made over here. So this is actually going to be click through. But if you want it to show up as an image, you quickly go into the dimension element. You go into the data type. We know it's a URL. Instead of showing the raw URL, we just change it to an image. And then on the left side, that's going to show you how it works. There's many ways to kind of put this into the tool and bring the images in. It could be a connector from an Excel sheet. We built this into the data layer, so it comes in to Google Analytics itself so that we can use it across reports and it's accessible. But it's one of the features that I think is underutilized and is really of value when you're trying to show an illustrated product demo report like this. This next part, I think, is pretty common in the e-commerce industry and isn't always illustrated well or understood. There's a lot of reports in Google's and there's the Shopify flavor version of it. And there's different levels that you can put into Data Studio itself. So we're going to go into our funnel reported. This is really important because this is where you start to understand week over week or period over period where your sales are leaking or where there could be a problem in the site. If you see your purchase rate drastically drop, that could be really bad, and that could indicate that there's something wrong on your site. So seeing these numbers with big fluctuations, easy read, can help you get to the bottom of problems faster. Engagement rate, same thing. Like maybe you have marketing channels that are new, so your engagement rate is lower the first couple weeks, but then you see them rebound as the algorithms of those marketing channels start queuing in on your success metrics to optimize them better. That would be a early indicator that you're starting to get the right clients in those marketing channels. Add to cart rate. Is there a new item on the site? Did you have a new release? Was there a sale that you were bringing people to the site? Your add to cart rate could go up, could go down if there's a problem or you're starting to sell out of things. This is a good indicator here. And I like to look at this now as an early indicator because add to carts are an easy way to bring people back to your website, especially when you have an abandoned cart campaign or initiate checkout campaign, things like that. Making sure these numbers stay high is going to help those campaigns perform better and in hopes bring back revenue to your site. And then secondarily, this may be different from your brand. I have two different funnels here. One is for Shopify, the number of people that are on your homepage, the number of people that see your collection or category pages, and the number of people that see your products. This may be inversed for some people. You may direct everyone to your homepage with a marketing initiative, then your homepage is going to collections, then your collections are going to products. So this could be a little bit more reversed. This is often just a count to make sure that you're understanding where the major pages are of your website. So in this instance, we know that that more people go directly to the product and collections than they do the homepage. So I want to make sure those pages are as optimized as possible and these numbers are staying high. If I see this start to reverse, it may mean that our market initiatives have changed. Maybe our SEO links are showing that you're going to the homepage more, and that could be something I would want to dive into. And then on the other side, the checkout funnel has to do with where you're going through the site once you get into your critical path. So after someone adds to carts, begins checkout and purchase rate, and you can start seeing the drop of each of those as well. Some people like percentages here, some people like numbers. I really just like to look at this generally to see at a glance if my drop off is changing. So for instance, if my begin checkout after add to cart starts looking super slim and it's the same as my purchases, then there could be a problem that is not encouraging people to add product to the cart out of sales or whatever it is, out of inventory or quick checkout button broke, whatever it is. If it starts looking identical to purchases, that could be bad, or in some cases it could be good. Maybe you have a really well-oiled machine, you're selling one product and you have a really high begin to purchase rate or add to purchase rate. That's really going to be reflective in how your consumers are working. And once that baseline is established, you want to be able to look at it at a glance here to make sure there's nothing wrong. So one of the biggest mistakes people make is making a really complicated executive dashboard. So when an executive comes in, there's numbers everywhere. They want to know every little thing, ask tens of questions all the time. That could be good in a detail report, but you want to have one place in your organization that someone can hit a dashboard and everyone's on the same page. So now that you got to look at all of these different baselines, the real important part here is we didn't do too much or too little in the data. We really want to make sure that this is self-serve for an executive or channel reporting. And the goal is that anyone who goes in here can understand the information and you all have the same baseline when you go into the report. This will prevent conversations like, is this right? Where did this come from? Why is this different than what I'm looking at? This is the place that everyone can agree on, and you're not going to have those conversations. It's also the place where you can have some time savings, right? This is a screenshot, put it into a presentation, send a link to look at this date range in an email and have a conversation like that. You don't have to do all the work yourself. You can say, here's where I got this information. We can go look at the same thing together. It's also a place that is your own. It's branded, it looks clean, it's something that you're all going to be comfortable looking at. You're going to be able to walk into any situation and have that data readily accessible for you. We made this report look nice after we made sure the data was correct. So we always build the report with the data information first, and we cross-check all of that in a set scenario, and then we start making it look nice. Or we make the template so then everything we add into it afterwards looks consistent and looks nice. We architect it in a way that you're going to be able to be comfortable and know where to get the information time over time. So every slide has a similar format, because knowing where you can hit the same data on every slide for different scenarios is going to help you ingest that information in your brain quicker. So having a beautiful slide has to do with the data being correct, the placements being understandable, and then looking nice so that you can feel that it's a full picture and it's going to be comfortable for your brand and your executives you report to. So start by copying this dashboard. Every panel I built is something you can rebuild in your own store this week, and it will already be better than the spreadsheet you've been updating by hand. But just as a reminder, you watched me start one level down at the data layer for a reason. The dashboards only tell the truth if what's feeding it is correct, and in most stores it's not. And there's nothing on the screen that's going to warn you about it. The events are firing wrong, the match rates drop, the product feed is malformed, and the consent step leaks. That's the part you can't eyeball from a chart. So if you want to know whether the data under your reporting can be trusted, that's the thing that we audit. We check the stack, we work with your dev team to fix what's off, and scope the framework of your reporting so it holds up to the people that you answer to.